Arvind, thanks so much for making it here. Super excited to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, and I want to just get into a few questions if you don't mind. One of the things that I've always been tremendously excited about is the potential that AI has, from a search perspective. Can you tell me a little bit more about your thoughts on, how do you see enterprise search evolving with AI?
Absolutely. This is what we do every day. So first of all, search has been on this journey over the last 25 years as the largest AI application in the world. And in the last 6 years is when this transformer technology has started to play a role in making search much, much better than it was ever before.
Yeah.
So when we started Glean, in fact, transformers were actually one of the most, the biggest motivators for us to actually build this product for enterprises. If you think about search today, the understanding that language models bring to content allows you to go much further in terms of what search can do for you. So instead of typing in a few keywords and just matching, finding documents that contains those words, now you can ask questions and the search systems can conceptually match that information with the right knowledge within your enterprise or in consumer. That's a big leap, going from keyword matching to conceptual matching.
Oh, yeah.
But then even better is, oftentimes I don't even want to actually read documents. So when I have questions, now, in these search experiences, they're no longer just surfacing results to you. They're actually taking those results and then making AI read them, synthesize them, and actually give you precise answers that you're looking for. So AI is playing a big role in making search a lot more useful and evolving it for the future.
That's awesome. I mean, one of the things I've always wondered is this, right? I think when you think about the universe of classical consumer search,
Yeah.
there are tons and tons of these documents that exist on the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
The enterprise always felt like it's a little more tractable, but having built enterprise startups myself,
Yeah.
I know that it's actually a very different type of a problem, and there's huge amounts of data sitting inside of these enterprises.
Yeah.
How do you think about, when you say that we're understanding semantically what's happening,
Yeah.
the meaning is what we're looking for, not just the keywords.
Yeah.
How do you think about this when you go into an enterprise? What does a cost function look like? What does time look like? If you can, talk to me a little bit about how you folks think about the axes of all of that, that'd be super helpful.
Absolutely. So first, you made a good point that search in the enterprise is a fundamentally different problem than search on the web. I'll just mention two reasons, for that. One, if you think about information in the enterprise, a lot of it is privileged. You don't have, it's not like the internet where every website is available to everybody in the world. A lot of your enterprise information is actually very restricted. Who can access, that information within the enterprise? So that your search systems have to understand that part. Otherwise they're going to be leaking information. Second thing is that enterprises don't have that much, neither does it have so much information that's out there on the web. And it's also, there are fewer people who are engaging with that information.
Right.
So for machine learning systems, search is a machine learning system, it becomes hard to actually, really figure out, where are the gems, what are the best pieces of knowledge? Because, Google learns from people's behavior. There is, over 1 billion people,
That's right.
Making it showing their behavior to Google to, so they can learn from it. We don't have that in the enterprise. So you have to think about alternate techniques. But now in terms of I think the good thing is today, you can actually build a really good search product in your enterprise because of a few different technology trends. One of them is SaaS. So in the pre-SaaS world, you just couldn't even connect. Couldn't even find where all this information is and how to connect with it. But now there are good interoperability standards and APIs. So you can when you build a search system, you can actually use these published APIs to talk to all of your different enterprise systems and get that information in one place. And then of course using the power of language models, you can actually train models inside your enterprise, where now you're starting to actually build a deeper understanding of what is this document about? Within an enterprise, who are the people? What are the key projects? Your enterprise lingo, acronyms, code names, jargon, all of these things. Language models are, you can think of a language model like a smart human that's actually making the effort of reading all of this knowledge and building an understanding of documents and relationships between them and people. And so that's sort of what you can do today, and that's what allows you to build a really good search experience, where now I think we've evolved from search as a system which is going to actually help me find a document that is what I was looking for.
Yeah.
To we're graduating it to become like an AI assistant, which is like, think of it as a smart human that has read every document in your company, that have been part of every single meeting, and that has happened inside your enterprise, and they have that context and they have the human intelligence, and you can just now go and ask them questions. And so imagine what that does for you.
That's amazing. That sounds like a dream, right? I mean, most of the times people show up to meetings without reading, some of that stuff, and we could probably have like a new culture of everybody comes to a meeting and sits down and reads the memo. You don't need that anymore. You have an AI assistant that's already read the memo for you.
Yeah.
That sounds fascinating. But there was a really interesting idea that you said that I want to pull apart a little bit, right? You talked about one of the key drivers was SaaS.
Yeah.
And the other side of the house, you said one of the key drivers was like, hey, the enterprise data is actually like really, very personal to the enterprise, right?
Yeah.
It's private. It's got intellectual property.
Yeah.
It's got things in there that perhaps discusses the strategy of how the company is going to evolve and build.
Yeah.
And sometimes you want to run these enterprise models. You want to bring these models, these LLMs, to the enterprise.
Yeah.
So how do you sort of see, these two things? It sounds a little bit opposing, but maybe it's not.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, I mean, see, first, like any search system or AI agent that you're going to build in the enterprise, there is a simple requirement that none of your data could leave your enterprise.
Right.
And that's not a requirement that only large enterprises have. Like, that's a requirement for every single company in the world.
That's right. Even startups, right?
Yeah, even startup, everyone. And so you have to ensure that whatever system that you are buying, actually gives you those guarantees. But that's a solved problem at this point, in the sense that even when you use these models that are hosted in hyperscalers, not necessarily within your VPC. Well, those systems, provided you sign the right contracts with them, they will guarantee that they won't persist any of that data, any inferencing workload that's actually crossing your VPC, it's never actually logged down, recorded anywhere. So you're safe. Your data is not going to be misused.
Got it.
But the bigger challenge is not that. The bigger challenge that we hear from enterprises now is that, well, internally, I don't have great governance, on my data sets. We have so much information across so many different systems, and we have not adequately protected that information. Today is not a big problem because nobody can find anything anyway. So I don't care. But in the future world, AI makes everything easy. I can just go into an AI assistant and say, hey, what's this person's salary?
That's right.
And well, now imagine that if for some reason, even if you have a great system that obeys permissions and governance and controls, if there was an HR person, they made a mistake, they have this salary spreadsheet, that they, shared by accident, with everybody in the company. It's sitting somewhere in some corner, nobody finds it today, but that AI system is going to find it.
Yeah.
And it's going to give you that answer back. So you have to sort of go and, when you think, build these systems, you have to be very careful about how you roll AI out. You have to understand the state of governance inside your enterprise, and these systems have to go above and beyond obeying those controls and sort of understanding things at a higher level. For example, in our system in Glean, if you come and ask a question like that, and you are an engineer, well, we know that given your role, that's not information that you should have access to.
Okay.
So we don't care, even if you had somehow had access to it, we're going to mask that information from you.
Wonderful. Arvind, thanks for taking the time. You're redefining enterprise search with AI, and you're doing that securely and safely. Super excited about what you're doing. Thank you so much for making the time.
Thank you.